Already this offseason, San Francisco has made it clear that they're not playing any games. First, they fired their special teams coordinator in Brian Schneider and replaced him with the Jets' Brant Boyer, as well as picking up Robert Saleh as their defensive coordinator, which should re-spark one of the best defenses we've seen. They've also been linked to several players, including Myles Garrett, who's recently requested a trade. But it doesn't end there, as today the intrigue continues to grow for San Francisco, as Jeremy Fowler of ESPN reported that Adams is intrigued by returning to play on the West Coast, an area in which he grew up at. Fowler had the following to say: "The Jets must address the future of Davante Adams, whose $38.3 million cap hit is untenable. A source told me Adams is intrigued by a return to the West Coast and would be open to potentially joining teams such as the Rams or Chargers. If he gets released, I would put the 49ers in the conversation too. Adams grew up in Northern California." While Adams joining San Francisco would require him to take a team-friendly deal, it is something the 32-year-old wide receiver could consider. If San Francisco is going all in for a Super Bowl, which it does appear so far this offseason, Davante Adams could decide to join this team, get himself a ring, and really cement himself as a Hall of Fame wide receiver. And San Francisco is going to be all over this option if he does become available, because sure, they have Brandon Ayuk, but he's coming back from his knee tear, and Deebo Samuel frankly could be traded this offseason, especially if they go out and acquire a player like Myles Garrett. This last year, Adams had 85 catches for 1,063 yards and 8 touchdowns, while spending time both with the Raiders and the Jets. It was his 5th consecutive 1,000-yard season, and even though Adams is coming in at 32 years of age, he could arguably be the best wide receiver San Francisco has had on their roster in Kyle Shanahan's era. If you think of an offense with Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, maybe still Deebo Samuel, Davante Adams, Ricky Pearsall, the opportunities will be endless for San Francisco's offense to end up being one of the better teams across the entire league. Throw in the fact they might get Myles Garrett, this could be one of the best teams we've ever seen. So if San Francisco is able to pick up a player like Myles Garrett, potentially by sending Deebo Samuel over to the Browns, who hasn't had a 1,000-yard receiving season since 2021, I would love to see him go all in for a player like Davante Adams to really upgrade their offensive unit rather than taking a step back. With Adams, you have a wide receiver who can run every single route at a high level on the football field. Maybe you can't do as much as you can with Deebo in the running game, but I believe Ricky Pearsall can step in a lot of those jet sweeps and take over. But ultimately, these are my thoughts on San Francisco being linked to both Myles Garrett and Davante Adams so far this offseason, and I'd like to hear your thoughts down below.